Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2018 and the final part of this experiment where we're seeing what would happen if a low league Scottish team got given billions upon billions of pounds at this point. Now we've already taken them 50 years into the future. They've won a lot of Premier League titles, including 10 in a row over the last decade, doing what Celtic and Rangers have never managed to do. And really establish themselves as one of the best teams ever to play in Scottish football. Now, we did notice they were beginning to drop off, and they did drop off quite a lot going into the future. So what we're going to do today is go another roughly 40 years into the future. We're going to give them a couple of £1 billion, so I'll top them up at least one more time after today. And we're also going to give them a sugar daddy owner and hope that that perseveres, all in the hope that they do eventually win a European competition. It's the only thing missing from their CV. So that'll be what we focus on today. We'll have a quick look at the league and how that's panned out. And then we'll have a kind of overview of where they've come from, what they've achieved, what Celtic and Rangers have done, what Scotland have managed to do with another big, rich club in the country, and also just the stats for Edinburgh. So it would be pretty much a wrap-up episode today, but let's go forward 40 years and see what they've managed to achieve. Don't forget to drop a like on the video if you have enjoyed this experiment though, and subscribe because there will be a brand new experiment out in just a few days' time. Well, we are now over 40 years into the future. It's the year 2102, so we're nearly 100 years ahead now of Edinburgh being one of the richest teams in the world. And you can see that they have got a brand new stadium with 93,000 capacity in it. So they really couldn't be doing that much more. You can see right here at the end that they have managed to win 10 in a row for the second time. So if we have a look at the Ladbrokes Premiership and its history, going back to that screen, see here all the past winners of the SPL, and I mean it is pretty remarkable. You have, going all the way back here, Celtic and Rangers dominating Scottish football. Hearts did manage to win a few titles, which is quite surprising, before Edinburgh City really came on the map. They got their 10 in a row here. Rangers won one before Edinburgh went on to win another, how many is this, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in a row. So between 2054 and 55 and 2078-79, they won all but one league title. Now that is unprecedented dominance. Celtic did manage to come back and win a few. Motherwell won one. Clyde managed to win some, and they've been hovering up and around the top end for quite a while before Edinburgh went on to win 10 more trophies. If we have a look at Clyde just very quickly, because they have done so well, you can see here they got promoted way back in 80-81. They've got rich finances too, and they did manage to get a couple of titles. If we look at their club details and their finances, they don't have a sugar daddy, so I'm not sure where their money came from, but they have clearly managed to do very well to come in and become a new team, winning the title there. Now if we go back to Edinburgh City and have a look at their schedule for the senior squad, then you can see I've managed to load up just the European fixtures, and in their first season after where we left off last time, they were the Whipping Boys in their Champions League group. Pretty embarrassing there. They got one win the following season in the Champions League, and then managed to make the knockout stages of the Europa League before going out to Besiktas on away goals. Europa League made it one step further that time after beating Inter, but went out to Ajax. And then the season after that, they made it to the semi-finals, the first time in a while that they've managed to do that. They managed to do quite well, beating some lesser teams, but Sporting and Benfica, very big teams to get past, and they did it unbeaten as well. But Monaco, too much for them, and they were knocked out 6-2 on aggregate. The following season, made it to the quarterfinals again, knocked out by Dortmund that time. Did make it to the Champions League knockout stages this time, but 4-0 to United on aggregate. And then couldn't get out the group the following year, which included Brentford in the Champions League group stage. This save seems to have gone absolutely mad. You can see Besiktas there in the knockout round the next season and again. And then the Champions League knockouts once more, beaten 6-2 on aggregate. And then they did make the Champions League quarterfinals after beating United 4-1 on aggregate. They lost to Spurs 4-1 in the quarterfinals. The following season, knocked out by Juve. And then they made the second round of their Europa League, but struggled to get through. Again against Inter at the same round, and then against Ajax, knocked out by Lyon, and then by Real Betis 2-1 on aggregate. And then they made the second knockout round again, but beaten by Liverpool, Lazio, Dortmund. I mean, this is really disappointing that they aren't managing to get much further than this. This is when they regressed a little bit before they started to come back and get automatically in the Champions League, which is from this point on. So this is where I'm really hoping that they do kick on and get a big European win. You can see they went out of the Champions League quarterfinals to Man United 4-1 on aggregate in 93-94. Atletico Madrid the following season, Marseille the season after that, out in the quarterfinals to Benfica, Leverkusen, didn't get out of the group the following year, Valencia, Liverpool, and then Sporting. And that takes us up to today. That is really frustrating that they have never managed to do. We have definitely given them a fair crack of the whip here. You can see they've won 39 Premiership titles, Ladbrokes Premiership titles, 21 Scottish Cups, 16 Betfred Cups, but they have not managed to win any European competitions, which is really, really unfortunate. If you want to have a quick look at this information, you are welcome to pause it at any point. You can see because this save's gone forward 100 years now, it is really difficult to load up each individual screen. But there are the managers for you if you want to have a look. You can see 12 league wins there and 7 cup wins for this guy who's been in charge for 13 years. Kevin Ford, who they named their stadium after, was in charge for 24 years, 323 days. They had another manager here who was in charge for 16 years before he resigned from the role with 1 league win and 5 cup wins. But that is pretty special. He retired from management, 21 league wins and 19 cup wins. We've got to have a look at his history. He was in charge, I don't know if that's longer than Ferguson or not, but you can see there that's his team summary, and obviously he was a player in the game, and he is an Edinburgh City legend, born in 2014. Ford made his senior debut in the Carabao Cup playing against Portsmouth, started his career at Norwich, managed to make 79 appearances for them. I'm just seeing if he won any competitions in his time as a player. I don't think he did. He hung up his boots playing for LA Galaxy after 4 years there, and then decided to go into management. If we look at his staff history, you can see he started out Queen of the South, moved on to St Johnstone after 3 years, then to Partick Thistle before becoming the Edinburgh City manager. And you can see he was appointed there, break from football less than 2 years, went to St Johnstone, did win the Ladbrokes Championship in 2056, and won the Betfred Cup. Jags team, Ford's Jags team. Is that what Partick Thistle's nickname is? I'm learning a lot about Scottish football. It is Partick Thistle's nickname. And then he went on to Edinburgh City, where he lifted the Ladbrokes Championship so many times there. Scottish Players Manager of the Year 3 times and Scottish Football Writers Manager of the Year 8 times. An absolute legend of Scottish football there. So many career trophies in his time. Very, very impressive. That 40 trophies with Edinburgh. And the current manager, 13 years in the job. You can see here a few managers did manage to get sacked, but none of them really lasted that long until Barry McLaren came along, and they have had a long spell with him in charge. He's got a Continental A licence. It's not the best manager in the world by any stretch, but doing a good job for them. If we have a quick look at their records, then you can see players with the most goals in this season. Monnier seems to be their lead man at the moment. Tan Binney also getting an awful lot of goals. But can you sort it by the most goals scored? You can't. We can maybe flick down. 33 for Odianse, and not too much else down there really. 36 seems like it was the most number of goals. 35 for Zhang Wen as well. But if we look at, I can't even see where that's gone now. 37 for Andre Raven. That's a new total there. But let's have a look at Zhang Wen with 35 goals. And you can see he's now playing at Arsenal, valued at £62 million after moving for £47 million. He had one brilliant season after leaving Bournemouth, and then moved to Arsenal. It's been fantastic for them ever since. I think we probably should have a look at their senior squad as well and look at the most high-value players in their team. You can see a little bit of value there. A lot of players over 15 million, but not as many as you might expect. But interesting, not many Scottish players, only 3, and they're all under 3k in value. So they are relying on internationals and mostly a lot of Germans from the looks of it. to take their team forward. Now let's have a quick look at Celtic and Rangers and just make sure that they haven't managed to win a European competition. After all this time looking at Edinburgh, maybe Celtic have managed to win the Champions League. If we have a quick look at them, you can see they've got a 75,000 capacity stadium. If we look at their competitions history, they won the Champions League in '67, but runner-up in 2003 in the Europa League, so no new European success for them. Rangers, who are the most likely team to have done it otherwise. If you look at their competitions, you can see they won it in the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1972 and runners-up in 2008, which is something that you guys pointed out a couple of episodes ago that I didn't realise. I didn't even know that Rangers made a Europa League final, which is shame on me, really. If we have a quick look at Dundee, make sure that any of these other big teams haven't managed to do the absolutely unthinkable. Runner-up in 1987 for Dundee, and Clyde, the surprise package, really, in their competition history. A couple of Ladbrokes Premier League titles, but nothing else. So that's it for the club sides, really. I don't want to spend too much time looking at them anymore, but maybe we can just have a look. I'm trying to find the quickest way to get to Scotland. There it is. At the Scottish national team, and see if they manage to have any success with all this new money brought in, at least to Edinburgh, if not to other clubs as well. And you can see under-19 championship, they managed to win that a few times, but they have not managed to win any major competition, which is really, really disappointing, given that they have got some decent players now, including some at United, Spurs, other places. So really, a kind of unfulfilling experiment. We saw Edinburgh City clean up with a lot of titles, but we haven't seen them really knock on and become a major force in European football. And you can see here that the Ladbrokes Premiership currently 7th in the rankings, above the Eredivisie, but still below the Portuguese Premier League and Liga and the other really, really big leagues. They are on a similar ranking, but they've not managed to break through because they haven't had that success in Europe. So that is going to be it for this experiment, really. Do drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to let me know if you've got suggestions for new experiments down in the comments, and subscribe for the next experiment when it comes out in a couple of days' time. But until next time, see ya!